This action-packed episode is brought to you by the Bacon Smokehouse Burger. It's the newest flavor of the signature crafted recipes by McDonald's.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our spoiler review for Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'm Dan Murrell.
I'm Roth, Cornet. And let's talk about this movie. Dan, first of all, in terms of large pieces of plot or character reveals, with spoilers, not a lot happened in this movie that was sort of shatteringly significant for the future of the MCU until that post-credit scene.
Yes, so we should say, we'll discuss the movie a little bit more. I was telling you before we started, I'd say about 80 to 90% of my thoughts on this movie were in the other review that we did. So, not to harp on those, but if you haven't seen the movie, if you stumbled onto this one by accident, you don't want it spoiled for you, this is your warning. This is your spoiler alert. We're going to get into spoilers about Ant-Man and the Wasp. If you did see the movie, or you're one of those weirdos that doesn't care about spoilers, no judgment, but it's a little weird. Come talk spoilers with us. So, Roth, should we start at the end? Do you want to start at the beginning? Where do you think?
Let's start at the end and work our way back, because I think that the big questions that I was left with, and we had Mr. Peyton Reed in here, as you guys will have now seen. We did a few different pieces of content with him. You did the honest trailer reaction.
Trailer commentary,
we did an interview with him, and then we did talk a little bit about spoilers. And the big thing for me that was, I guess not surprising but sad, is of course
we see the snap, the after effects of the snap.
The after effects of the snap. We have now just come to really enjoy Hope. And she's gone. She's obviously not going to... Janet, Hank, they're all gone. They will not be a part of Infinity War 4, which, to be fair, has a lot of characters to service. Or so we think.
I don't know.
Well, hang on, because let me... good. I'm glad. Good. This is something to talk about. Because there's one possibility that everybody that's been snapped out of existence is in a different dimension, and that we will see them there.
Yep.
Or there's a possibility that we'll see a lot of them there, or that we won't see them at all because we'll be left with the characters that are alive here in our dimension, right?
Yes.
Either way, they were wiped out of this dimension. But more significantly, in a way, is Ant-Man is trapped in the who's getting him out? He's in the quantum realm. I almost said the Phantom Zone. Don't get mad at me. Zone. It's not the Phantom Zone. I know that. I know that. I know where that's where Zod is. I know that. I know that. Damn it.
Where there are time vortexes.
Realm. Yes.
Remember, don't get caught in a time vortex.
Hint.
I don't know if that's really set up. It just seemed like a strange thing to drop in there without having set it up prior, that there are time vortexes in the quantum realm.
Yeah.
Mightn't that tie into a potential way to return everybody from whence they came?
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know. Ant-Man's there. He's got to get out somehow. Although I do wonder, he got out of the quantum realm before.
He did.
He was able to grow himself.
He was able to grow himself.
If I were Ant-Man, I'd have some of those discs on me.
Yeah.
Like Doc Brown with that suitcase full of plutonium. Have some of those discs on there. Grow yourself out.
And that might be what happens. It might be that this was the tease, and then very early on in Infinity War, he does get himself out. Maybe he gets himself out at a different time period. Look, maybe he ends up in a different dimension. Probably it would be a time... They did tease time vortex.
That just seemed like an odd thing to be like, oh yeah, time vortexes, bye.
Well, they
literally.
were also, at the end, this is a quick Infinity War spoiler. At the end of Infinity War, they were beeping... I'll do this at the end of this. Beeping Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel from wherever. So we know that she's going to be introduced at some, probably 20 or so years in the past.
Yeah.
So
the 90s.
The 90s. So who knows what's going on
nowadays. But that was, ostensibly speaking, if you were to believe that they were really snapped out of existence, quite the bummer, because I was pretty curious about Janen's healing powers.
Yes, her magical quantum. Well, they were going back in there to get quantum healing particles. So apparently she's not a full Green Mile type person.
Part.
Quantum. Listen, as the movie itself pointed out, you just throw quantum in front of everything and it explains it.
Yeah.
She's a quantum healer.
Quantum helicist.
Yes.
Yeah. But I was kind of curious, and I know that I, for one, need more Michelle Pfeiffer in my life as a general rule. So I hope that we do see them in the next film, if not somewhere else going forward. I imagine we would.
I wonder. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if they're going to get him in because so many people have been reported to be in Avengers 4. At this point, how do you get them all in there? They just list everybody.
So that we don't know, really.
We'll see. Yeah. But I mean, you know, obviously they're setting it up for the franchise now. You've got Hank, you've got Janet, you got Hope, you have Scott.
Yeah.
You got everybody there. But again, there's this, I wonder how much, I guess you're probably not really that hamstrung by having Avengers 4 looming over you, because I really don't think outside of Avengers 4 it's going to impact long-term planning that much.
It won't. Circling to the film itself, and in terms of Michelle and how that character was handled, what was sort of like, we just sort of got a taste of her, very, very brief. We got the Paul Rudd version of Janet, which is, I think, one of the more successful scenes in the movie. I thought it was very fun.
When she kind of...
Yes, when she embodies him, and they have the family reunion
quantum
through
entanglements,
him.
Yes.
They weren't quantumly entangled.
Yes.
What was your take sort of on the handling of each character's arc, hers in particular, how they interacted, the movie?
I was bracing for her to be evil. To have turned in the quantum realm, and that she's the real villain. And I'm glad. I'm not saying I hope that. I'm glad they didn't do that. I was bracing for it to be that thing of like, we found her, and now she's the big bad that you have to punch or whatever at the end of the thing, and the growing and the shooting things out of the hand, all that stuff that happens. You know how it is. So I was glad they didn't go that route. But really, there's, other than the fact that she's sort of the thing, the MacGuffin, for what they need to get, we don't know that much still about her. She's her mom, and they love each other very much. That's about it.
And she's very, very...
And she has glowy hands now.
She has glowy healing hands.
Yes.
But here's the thing for me, and I think that we talked about this a little bit in our other review, is the villains play a very minor role in the movie. It's not even a villain problem. It's really that Ghost, we understand her, we understand sort of what her pain, and where literal, metaphorical, and literal pain, and where she's coming from. And by the end of the movie, she clearly sort of wants to have a turn, and that may be allowed for her.
Yeah.
Walton Goggins was a very broad villain who literally drove the things around. Drove the plot. Drove the plot around town.
Literally drove the plot in a building form.
Yeah,
around
the city. So there weren't really like big arcs there. This was a movie that was incredibly focused. It was really on Hope and her dad and Hank and their relationship and their search to reunite their family. And then on the other hand, for Ant-Man, trying to be a father to his daughter and responsible in that sense. And is he being responsible to her if he doesn't sort of fulfill what he's capable of doing as a hero, even if it's just for the people he knows and loves? And he's kind of like falling short of that and then living into it at different moments.
And that felt to me like the stuff the movie really cared about.
Yeah.
Again, when this was over, watching the credits, a number of writers' names came up at the end when it said written by, and it was several people, and like that sounds about right. That was the movie's big downfall for me. Ghost, I think, other than being it was like there was a version of the movie that went much deeper into her character, and they sort of shuffled it off over here to get more room. You got to make room for the Scott stuff, but then you also got to get the Janet stuff.
You have to have
and
the humor
quantum
with
realm
Michael
stuff.
Pena.
You got to have the everyone loves Michael Pena and the crew, so you got to have their thing. And then like the Walton God, that whole storyline, other than just having somebody to follow them around. When you look at how it's consequential to the story itself, it was really a side deal that they had going on.
Right.
That really the only reason it existed in the movie was to have someone chasing them, to provide a conflict for them to run around, and that's where the movie for me felt a bit more scattered than the last one, in the sense that there were so many things going on, and they didn't all really have a unifying. I was waiting for like, okay, well, what ties Walton Goggins' character together with Lawrence Fishburne and Ghost? Like, what is the thread between these two of them that's going to sort of tie that together? There wasn't any, really.
Yeah, except that they all wanted, it was really that they all wanted the same device, for different reasons. I want it for money. I want it to save my own life. I wanted to save my mother's life. Now, obviously, and then, for Scott, he's just sort of wanted to redeem himself to the two of them that he betrayed.
Yeah.
It's a very I like that we get these smaller films, these smaller superhero films that have much more focused stakes. I think we can all understand wanting to save a loved one, and then the conflict that would come up if you wanted to save yours and I wanted to save mine, and that was not going to gel together. We're going to have problems with each other. That sort of, I think, on paper works, but it did sort of get mired down in all of these other pieces that I was trying to satisfy.
Yeah, thematically that's great. I just don't
and
think
some
it
very
really went
questionable insect ethics. A friend of mine pointed this out on Twitter. There was times where you wondering, like, are there limits to what an ant can learn, even if it's enlarged?
Well, and the last one we grew so attached to Anthony.
We did.
And now they're just like dropping like flies. I mean, it's just like I guess we don't care about them now. I guess we don't care about the ants anymore because they're just dying left and right. No Thanos required. It's as I think back on it, so many times when we have one of these big Marvel movies, we can sit here and sort of just break it down for however long, and the plot, the theme, the background, or the deeper. And this one is just kind of like it happened. It was entertaining, had some laughs, had a good time, but other than that, it's fun.
I think it's a fun comedy, and we've said this several times now, so we'll probably just button this up on saying it again. I think the best advice to give anybody who is a big superhero and sort of like wide stakes, big epic superhero storytelling fan is to go into this film as if you're going to see a comedy. In that sense, it is incredibly successful. It's a very, very funny comedy. These are wildly talented actors. I happen to have really loved Hope. And I already loved Scott and Hope in the last one, but especially them as a team in this one. I do hope to see more of that. I'm curious about Michelle Pfeiffer and what she can do and how that plays out in the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I do think it was successful on a lot of different levels. Very, very fun and funny film.
Yeah.
But yeah, not necessarily sort of a superhero film in the way that we would expect those thematically for that to play out.
It accomplished the facts of establishing Evangeline Lilly further in her character and selling her, and I think they did very well on that. She's part of the team, and they've established Wasp now as no explanation really needed when they want to bring her in. I liked her performance. I had no issue with any of the performances. That's where this movie, comedically and performance-wise, this movie's great. It's solid.
Yeah.
I mean, great. Good. No qualms with any of them. It's more when you get down, you take the bigger picture look of just like, as a movie, looking at the totality of it. I think that the sum doesn't equal the whole doesn't equal the sum of its parts, or whatever that phrasing is. The parts were better than the whole of the movie for me.
It was interesting to me is that it's kind of like meta in the sense that Walton Goggins, who is a tremendous, tremendous talent, was physically driving around the plot. That in moments it felt like plot was driving the bus. Yeah. Things like, oh, conveniently, I'm about to tell you, like, we're going to turn up the kind of like throw it to 11 with the time crunch here because I forgot to mention you have about an hour or whatever it was.
The timeline they
to
just
come
grabbed
get
out,
me. Otherwise, it just shuts down for another 100 years. Janet says out of nowhere, like this sort of one moment in time is only available now when you're being chased by the feds and a villain and this other villain, and then it won't open again for another 100 years. I get that you want us to really feel the pain of this and the urgency of that, but I wish that would have been embedded earlier. Yeah. That came out of nowhere for me.
It seemed a bit. Plus, can explain to me how these buildings work, because they're not attached to anything, and there's this lab in there that takes a massive amount of power, plumbing, electricity.
I assume they're going to the bathroom.
There must be some kind of just internal superconductor that these buildings use. Because look at that. It's not attached to anything. I don't see any solar panels. These are the little tiny things that I think of that are stupid. Yeah. But and also in my mind, I'm just like, but how does that work? Like at the end when they're on the beach and he grows this huge house.
I wondered the same thing, because especially exactly in the house. You know, you're going to have a kitchen. You need running water. You're going to take a bath. Where's the plumbing?
I mean, I guess if he can invent a shrinking ant suit, he can invent
magic
self-sustaining plumbing electricity. I'll give him.
Well,
the
then, to be
benefit of the
honest,
doubt
you
on
should
that.
really be saving the world in an energy crisis. You can magically make water appear.
That's true.
You should be going to save the world with magical water.
That's true. You could make it so that no one in the world ever needs to be connected to electrical lines or
Yeah.
or running water again.
What are you doing,
you're
man?
shrinking your house and putting
But
cars
no,
in a Hot Wheel case.
instead you're running around with Hot Wheels. Like, maybe you're the villain, Hank.
Maybe he
I'm
is.
kidding. Don't at me.
Oh boy, we've been down that road. Let's
Don't
not go
at me.
there. Him
but
and
yeah.
Tony Stark are the real villains of the MCU.
Exactly.
I didn't
We
say.
didn't- just
Just
don't at us.
Yeah.
I do think that those are sort of the questions that you can get mired down in if you're starting to dig in a little bit.
Sure.
And then occasionally in the film, ironically enough, character drove, and rather than in the sense that it's like, and I loved Michael Pena, and I think he is a highlight of this film, but it's very, very clear that they needed to set up a circumstance for him to really shine. I'm glad they did.
that Truth Serum stuff was hilarious.
The True Serum was a
great.
hilarious bit, and I'm glad that it's in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think in total, consequences for the MCU outside of Ant-Man being lost in the quantum realm
Yeah.
and maybe coming out in a different time period
Yeah,
where
pretty
he can
small.
do an assist are relatively minor.
No pun intended.
I
Small.
meant it.
Small consequences.
I
but
want
yeah.
more. I want more of those Pims.
More Pims, like
Yeah.
the drink.
Yeah,
Pims cup.
Yeah.
You want a Pims cup?
I do.
Yeah, no, I agree. For me, this movie is more moments, performances, characters, specific jokes than it is looking at the back of the total of it and saying, "Oh wow, what an amazing film." But it's entertaining, and I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take entertaining.
I'll take entertaining, and I'll take seeing what happens next with these ant persons and wasps.
The
Wasp.
insect kingdom, really.
The
all of
insect
them.
kingdom, Bill. I do really have questions about enslaving all of these like large ants and making them do your bidding. I have questions. I have moral, ethical questions about that.
We'll have to go over on the Medium.
Yeah.
We'll write a piece. We'll
If
write
you
a
have,
piece.
if you have pieces about the questionable ethical nature of the treatment of the insects in the Ant-Man and the Wasp, shoot it my way on Twitter. That'll be a very, very specific thing to
It will
me
be.
and my interests. Other than that, hope you enjoyed Ant-Man and this spoiler review. Let us know what you thought in the comments below, and we will be back again soon with more movie reviews,
Yeah.
news, thought pieces.
You name it.
We're here.
Blockbusters. Still
Blockbusters.
rolling out, Roth.
Yeah,
like
we-
an assembly line.
And we have a couple of really interesting smaller films still to come out this summer.
We do. It's going to be fun. Thanks for watching.
Today's episode brought to you by the Signature Crafted Recipes by McDonald's.